All right. Hello. Is anyone here? Hello. We here? Are we here? You know what we used to say in yeshiva? You got. We would say, whoever's here is here, and whoever's here and they're serious. I'm here and I'm serious. Those are the old isms. Whoever's here is here, and whoever's here is serious, right? All right, so this is a fluke kind of Wednesday night edition because, like I said, we have a lot of gear material to get out, and denim class just isn't enough. And we're in a little bit of a downtime between now and the official yeshiva launch. So we're going to cover topics of gear tonight that just don't really have a home. Right? Denim isn't really appropriate just to do anything and everything gear. And as you know, during the week, we have our regiments. So this is going to be kind of a kitchen sink gear night. Are you guys down with that? Are you down with the kitchen sink gear? Yeah. And Justin Becker, this is for you. You know, I like to bring a lot of linguistics into my studies. Yeah? All right. So can I read to you a little bit of an excerpt that got my blood boiling? This is from Michael Schulman, our dear good friend from Ask Noah. And he's responding to these absurd gear claims, right? For sure. I'll even give a nice little narrator's voice. Would you like that, Justin Becker, if I narrated with a nice voice? For sure, that Hebrew word, ger, is there in the written Torah. What I meant is that Katz and Chlorphene have attached a different meaning to that word in certain specific Torah verses, and their new meaning is seriously opposed to what God intended for it to mean as a matter of Torah law when he dictated it to Moses. Katz openly admitted that he did that. That's what I meant when I said mistranslation. I could be more clear by saying deliberate deception instead of mistranslation. Beyond that simple issue, Katz and Chlorphene are teaching that non-Jews, under the umbrella of their new ger religion, may and should violate Torah law, including in ways that make them liable to death by the hand of heaven. Since that is often not administered during physical life, it's more likely to be administered after the person's passing. Okay, cut. What's the pshat, gentlemen? What do you think about those nice words from our friends over there at Ask Noah, right? Nice words. So what he's saying, other than the outright lies, saying that I admitted this, okay, I wasn't aware of that. That Katz and Chlorphene have bastardized the word ger. Is that correct? Can we take that away from this? That there's a word ger in the Torah, I guess the 5 books of Moses, and we have mistranslated it nicely, and we deliberately have deceived by changing the meaning. Those are the words of Michael Schulman. Is that a fair assessment of what Schulman's saying here? Can I summarize and paraphrase on that on that point? Well, that's a good question, Justin Becker, because that's why I paused. Are you ready for me to unpause it and continue? The question is Michael Schulman talking about himself? Well, let's find out. You ready? Are you ready? 1 or 2, 2 or 1. Now, here comes his own personal campaign. Ready? The term Noahide, as we use it, means in Hebrew, Chasidei Umot HaOlam, which is a well-known important term in oral Torah law given to Moses from God on Mount Sinai. Just as a very practical matter, a campaign to the general public called the Chasidei Umot HaOlam campaign is more difficult to promote than the shorter title, but equivalent in meaning Noahide campaign or Noahide campaign for those who aren't familiar with traditional transliterations for Hebrew letters that aren't part of the English alphabet. Maybe a halfway compromise for a way to say it would be Gentile Hasid or non-Jewish Hasid, but that still leaves a lot to be desired. The truly most important issue here involves a person's actions. Names and titles are important, but not fundamentally so. All the best, Mike. Cut. Okay. Now, what I really like about this, what I really super duper like about this, Justin, is I'm going to show you what I like about it. Ready? Let's see here. Where's my little note? The note. And semantic loan. All right, here comes a link for you boys. Okay. Now, before I get to real business here, I want to say the real pshat here, okay? The pshat is like this. Ready? If we are going to say that David Katz has willfully changed the meaning of ger, is that the claim? Is that the claim? Yeah. Now, the real answer is no, I did not change the meaning of ger. Right? We have copied and pasted from all the sources what ger means. Now, the irony, before we get into ger, but he basically then says, exactly, Justin Becker, because, ladies and gentlemen, if there are ladies listening, he is saying that Noahide, I don't want to quote myself here. Let's read his words again, just for emphasis. Ready? All right, here. True or false? Ready? The term Noahide, as we use it, means in Hebrew, Chasidei Umot HaOlam. True or false? True or false? He's saying true. False. Why is it false? Now, if it's false, then the very crime he is incriminating me with, he would have committed himself. You do realize that. Why is it false? Because Chasidei Umot HaOlam is in fact Hebrew, and we find that lashon I believe we find it in the Zohar, but we won't mention that right now. We find it where he's quoting it from in the Rambam. Hilchos Isuri Bia 14:7 and Hilchos Malachim chapter 8, halachas 10 and 11. In conjunction with the Rambam's law that we are to press the nations to make them take on the 7 laws with a proper Kabbalah. And then, if they have proper Kabbalah and intentions, they are considered from the Chasidei Umot HaOlam, type 1, because that's true. And what I'm calling that is ger. That's what I'm calling it. I'm calling that ger. And they're going to say that I am changing the meanings of ger. Now, why do I call it ger? Because the Rambam there calls it ger toshav. He calls it ger toshav. Jacques, is that the Jubilee ger toshav? Jacques, is that the Jubilee ger toshav? Oh, it's not the Jubilee ger toshav. Well, how can it be, Jacques? Are there 2 levels of ger toshav? Are you saying there's 2? There's 2 ger toshav. That would be called svei dinim from Shitas Brisk. Svei dinim from Shitas Brisk. Svei with a V. T-Z-V-E-I. D-I-N-I-N. So, all right. So we have the Katz Brisk understanding. And the type of Chasidei Umot HaOlam would be ger toshav. There's no ger toshav in the Chumash. Is that correct, Jacques? Is there a ger toshav in the Chumash? No, there's not a ger toshav in the Chumash. There's no such thing or words ger toshav in the Humash. What there is ger. Ger in your gates, ger, many kinds of ger. So what I'm saying is the biblical word for the rabbinic term Chasidei Umot HaOlam is ger. And a Talmudic synonym is ger toshav. And you're going to say there's no ger toshav today. So that's why there's Chasidei Umot HaOlam. And I agree with Michael Schulman that we don't go around saying we are campaigning for the Chasidei Umot HaOlam. It's a little bit cumbersome and awkward, isn't it? So we agree that there's a Chasidei Umot HaOlam. Now, where we disagree is how to learn that Rambam. The Rabbi Katz and Briskers are saying that the Rambam is saying you have to take Kabbalah on the 7 mitzvahs, which makes you a ger toshav. Synonymous with Chasidei Umot HaOlam. Chasidei Umot HaOlam is another distinction away from ger toshav, lest you think that ger toshav is the same ger toshav as Manshi Yovel Noyig. Svei dinim. And Lubavitch gets out of the Svei dinim crisis with the Jubilee by saying ger toshav is Jubilee. There's no ger toshav today. We have Chasidei Umot HaOlam if they properly take on the 7 laws of Noach with a proper kavune. And there's no need for a Kabbalah. It doesn't do anything for you, says Moshe Weiner. We don't need Kabbalah. And Michael Schulman on AskNoah.org says you can take Kabbalah on the Zion mitzvahs, but it literally gives you nothing. Even though it's some kind of something or other of ger toshav, we prefer to call you the Chasidei Umot HaOlam, and that's where we learn it differently. From that point forward, Katz and Chlorfine have chosen the biblical route just to call it ger, going from Chasidei Umot HaOlam, 3 words. And ger toshav, it doesn't really fit the bill, so why not call it by its biblical, ger, type 1. And then there are those that explain ger according to the way we are explaining it, that ger is synonymous with ger toshav, where we are explaining that it is a ger toshav. And you'll say there's no ger toshav today. And I'll say I agree with you. And you'll say then, Rabbi Katz, why are you explaining ger toshav for the Chasidei Umot HaOlam as Manshi Yovel Noyig when it's not as Manshi Yovel Noyig? Because there's svei dinim. When it says ger toshav, It may not be a Jubilee Ger Toshav. It may just be a non-Shituf Ger Toshav. And Chazal called it likewise Ger Toshav. Svei Dinim. There's two kinds of Ger Toshav. In any location, you have to pay attention lest there be two kinds of Ger Toshav. Avodah Zorah 64b has three opinions of the Ger Shebesharecha, the Ger in your gate. The first taich is that you reject Avodah Zorah with a proper Kabbalah, and you do it before Gimel Chaverim, a type of based in Yisrael. And we don't paskin that way. We paskin the 7 laws of Noach, what we would call a Noahide of some kind of vernacular. And most will say, but that Ger Toshav is mitzvah chiyuso to sustain him, and that doesn't exist as such until Zman Sheyovo Noyeg. And then he can take on all the mitzvahs of the Torah, which is quite ironic for those that say that a non-Jew cannot do any more mitzvahs than the 7. Yet the Talmud says they can do every mitzvah, but he really should continue to eat nevela, because that's what separates him from a convert, and there's no need to convert, and then we get into the laws of nevela. And then you'll say, but that's just Chazal, and we only paskin according to the Sanhedrin, and the Midrashim, and a bunch of Im. And then what we'll say is you didn't look in the Rambam, Hilchos Malachim, chapter 10, halacha 10, that a Ben Noach can take on any other mitzvah of the Torah l'kabel schar, which is not the same as the previous halacha that says a goy that keeps Shabbos is chayiv misa. Notice the lashon change in the Rambam in 9 and 10 from goy to Ben Noach. It's not the same human being. Why? Svei dinim. There's a goy, and then there's a goy. There's a goy who's a goy, and a goy who's not a goy. What do you call a goy who's not a goy? He is not a goy. He is out from the nations, and he is called by the Ritfish Shita either a Ger Toshav or a Ben Noach, or a goy who's not a regular goy, a kuti, who does some mitzvahs. Then you say, but why then in 10:10 do we call him a Ben Noach? If he is called a Ben Noach, he should be the same as this goy. What does it mean, Ben Noach? Is it Ben Noach and Noahide? Hold that thought. When the Rambam says Ben Noach in Hilchos Malachim 10:10, Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik, which is written in Od Yosef Yisrael, Od Yisrael Yosef ben Yichai, the new Sefer of Ger Toshav, contact Russell Kirk for details, that Ben Noach is not a Ger Toshav Gamor. So the Rambam is showing, how do we say that he's not a total Ger Toshav? We still call him a Ben Noach, which Moshe Weiner calls him a Ben Noach kosher, a Noahide plus, one who's mastered the 7 and goes onward, weiter and Shas, into keeping more mitzvahs. Type 1. All right. So then we go back to Avodah Zorah 64b, and we find out it's not a machloikis. There are at least 3 kinds of Ger Toshav. One who rejects Shituf with Kabbalah. And why do we say we don't paskin according to that? Well, we do paskin according to that, just not according to give charity to the Ger Toshav. That's the second opinion, who keeps the 7 laws. We don't judge you by your Kabbalah of the 7 laws, even though you have to keep the 7 laws. We judge you by your Kabbalah on rejecting Shituf, which we'll get into in a little bit. And the first 2 opinions are radically different than the third opinion. The third opinion has nothing to do with the first 2 opinions. Look to Parshas Rei, chapter 14, verse 21. We give the nevela to the ger and sell it to the nachri. What is a ger here? It's a charitable act, mitzvah chiyuso. And he is not an idolater. No shituf. So the first 2 opinions combine to be the third opinion in Parshas Rei with the nevela. Svei dinim, from the mouth of God we heard 2, Jacques type 1. And in the first 2, it's a srichusa. You have to have both. How do we understand Ger Toshav? Ger Toshav's man yoiva noyeg, someone who keeps the 7 laws of noyeg with a proper Kabbalah. Or if it's not man yoiva noyeg, but only in keeping the Ger Toshav Shabbos, it's enough to reject Shituf. And his Shabbos day for him is like not serving idols. because he accepted the 7 laws as Israel accepted them at Sinai. All right. So therefore, what we have is the Ger Toishiv, Ger Shar, and Ger. And we understand how the Chasidei Umot HaOlam are a representation of the first opinion rejecting Shituf. In fact, Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik says it is the Rambam who says that a Noahide, so to speak, is not allowed to keep Shituf, which means he has to take Kabbalah, which means he's Ger Toshav, which means Rabbi Weiner's not correct, type 1. You're not allowed to not take Kabbalah. Eventually, you need to take Kabbalah. Whereas Weiner and S. Noah and Divine Code want to say no need for Kabbalah, just proper intentions. All right. So, Katz and Chlorphene are saying Ger is the biblical, and the Talmudic, you can say it's Ger Toshav, but as though Ger Toshav in the biblical, and we are choosing to make it more understandable by saying Ger, which the only confusing aspect is you can say you don't know what a Ger is. In that case, you should look it up. Or it's confused with convert, who's actually not a Ger. A convert is more appropriately a Ger Gomor or a Ger Tzedek, which is also not found in the Chumash, but is found in the Talmud of Poskim. And really, they're not even called that. They should be called a Jew type 1. And the Chasidei Umot HaOlam is a term by, like I said, it's in the Zohar, but the Rambam made it famous. So we are saying that Ger is in the family of Chasidei Umot HaOlam. And there's no such thing as sourcing Chasidei Umot HaOlam because it is a made-up term. And Ger Toshav, we could source it there, but then you're going to tell me, what about the Jubilee? So we went biblical where it's Ger, which is the host of every kind of Ger, and therefore you better use the right verses when talking Ger, which we do. It's called Ger Shar. Give the Nevela, Shabbos, or go hear the Torah being read in the temple. All 3 of those are non-Jewish Gerim. Type 1. So that we find it a little bit strange that I am being accused of changing the definition of a word. Let's go back to Shulman, who says he's focusing on the Rambam's Chasidei Umot HaOlam, which makes no sense anyways, because that is not even a Talmudic term. It is a completely rabbinic term. When I say rabbinic term, we're not talking like kavod to the rabbis. We're saying like ben noach kosher. That is not a proper halakhic term. That's like a jargon. And you do not need to stick with jargon. In fact, you can choose your jargon of choice. In football, Justin Becker, is it a running back, a halfback, or a tailback? Now, there may be actual definitions to those, but I'm sure that most people won't lynch you if you say the word tailback, running back, and you get them mixed up. It's jargon, the guy that runs with the football. But once you get into Ger Toshav, that's a Talmudic term. That is used in a certain way. It's an Iker term. Chasidei Umot HaOlam may be used as an Iker term, but it is not exclusively an Iker term. Not the same way Ger Toshav is. So Ger Toshav is dangerous if you stay there because it implies Jubilee. Ger, you can say, is only dangerous because people don't know what it means. But the Torah tells you what it means. The Chumash tells you what it means. The Talmud tells you what it means. We all know what it means. It's called look it up and find out what it means. If you want to say Ger means convert, well, then you're just a plain, flat-out Amaretz, because it doesn't mean convert. Hardly ever. Type 1. So now if we're going to look at the Chasidei Umot HaOlam, and he says that Noahide is the meaning of Chasidei Umot HaOlam. Is it? First of all, I would translate Chasidei Umot HaOlam as the pious among the nations. Can you explain to me where The word Noahide implies the pious among the nations. How am I supposed to know from the word Noahide that it means pious among the nations? Because it's an English word, so you can't say that Isaiah used it in that way. You can't say, well, Isaiah says that Noahides are pious people. Remember, Jacques, when the Noahides came into Samaria? Remember that? When the Radak said it was the holy Noahides? No, we don't remember that because it never happened. And the Samaritans didn't speak English. So you have a base word that has no ikar nuances to it. So I am supposed to believe you that Noahide means Chasidei Umot HaOlam. All right, let's do it, Jacques. Let's have faith, right? Amunas Chachamim, faith in the sages of Asno. In that case, Justin Becker would ask you, can we at least see the etymology and the linguistic code of Noahide, just so we know where it came from, what you're thinking? What do you think, Justin? Now, I'm not a scholar when it comes to linguistics like some people. I mean, I'm an amateur, but I wouldn't call myself a PhD. But it seems to me that Noahide is a cognate of B'nai Noach. Is that a safe assumption? That they are attempting to say that Noahide is, I hear the word Noah, Noahide, Noahide. Sounds like Noah-ish. So something with Noah, right? Something Noah-ish. But what does the righteous of the nations have to do with Noah? How do we get Noahism, Noahide, Noahidic? How does that get pious to the nations? Now, the sons of Noah populated the whole world. So if we say the world is B'nai Noach, and Noah was commanded in laws, so we should keep the laws of Noah, that makes me a Noahide. But the nations of the world are commanded in the 7 laws. So if I did the 7 laws, wouldn't that just make me normal? Why does that make me a Hasid? Why am I pious for that? It doesn't make me pious just because that's like saying in America, I'm righteous because I didn't get arrested yesterday. Thank God. Another day where I didn't kill somebody. Thank God. Baruch Hashem. I'm pious. So Noahide just means sons of Noah who are commanded in Noahide laws. That doesn't make me pious of the nations. Now let's say because I recognized the laws, and most people don't recognize the laws, so I recognize them. Therefore, I'm pious. Therefore, but that makes me pious of the nations. How does that make me a Noahide? Now, let's say an American stands up for the national anthem. Justin, you're not an American. I'm an American. So then what you're saying is if the pious of the nations is a Noahide, then everybody else is basically what? Subhuman? I'm a real Ben Noah. I understand the 7 laws. That makes me pious just for getting shot. So if you don't get shot, you're not Noah. Well, then what are you? The Neanderthal people. So there's Noahides and Neanderthal people. Or we could say the nations. There's the nations and the Chasidei Umot HaOlam. The righteous, the pious of the nations, and just the nations. So then there's Noahides and nations. Now, that works, doesn't it? I was able to work it out. But I worked it out by using Lefi Pshuto, which means I brought in all of my external wisdom of Noahism. I plugged it in to kvetch a meaning to make it work for Michael Schulman, 1 or 2. And the way the linguistics works is you can make anything mean something. Right? So, Justin, you know what your name means? Justin? It means just in. right? Like there's just out and just in. So Justin just made it in time. That's what Justin means, right? Just in time. So everybody else is left out. They were not just in time. But everyone named Justin is just in time. Now I'm sure we can, you know what? Let's look up what Justin means. Ready? Let's see what Justin means. Probably means just, right? Justin name meaning. And here we go. Where's my website over here? Think baby names. Here we go. Think baby names. And Justin means upright or just. So when you're just in time, that means that you're righteous and just. And if you're late, that's not just. See? We know where justice comes from. All right. This is why the Greeks are fascinated with logos. And this is why linguistics is an interesting study. Because you can make anything mean anything with Lafi Pshuto. But if that's correct, then why didn't Mr. Schulman give that explanation? And not only that, but it's a very weak explanation. I had to seriously assume a lot of things to make that work. He is not explaining anything, and he wants you to not even assume what I said. In fact, he would probably disagree with me just to disagree with me after I would try to prove him correct. So I gave you a link here to semantic loan. Has everyone looked up semantic loan? A semantic loan is a process of borrowing semantic meaning from another language. All right, let's look up semantic meaning. Oh, sorry about that. Wrong click. Semantic meaning. So semantic meaning is, let's say ger means stranger. Ger means stranger. That's a semantic meaning. And a semantic loan is when you add meaning to a word. Let me think of an example of this. Let's see if they give us one. I'll tell you here. I think, don't hold me to this, but I think this is an answer. Ready? How many of you have ever heard of the rodent called a mouse? Have you guys ever heard of this rodent called a mouse? So in technology, they call the hand device that points, they also call that a mouse. Did you know that? So the word mouse has picked up another semantic meaning through a semantic loan, type 1. And then a morpheme is if we say mouses. If you put an S at the end, mouses. It's like a lot of moosin'. Old joke. So if you say mouses, the S implies plural, and that's a morpheme, which adds another meaning to the word mouse. Now, how many of you have ever heard of Mickey Mouse? So Mickey Mouse is a particular mouse. So the word mouse, we can say, has at least 3 different semantic meanings. And Disney gave us a semantic loan, and technology gave us a semantic loan. And if I'm not explaining this new concept clearly, I do ask for an apology. I just don't have time to go through this Wikipedia to make sure it's absolutely correct. But I know I'm at least pretty close, and I would say 99% sure that I'm right on the money. And you have the link in front of you to look up semantic loan, where over there at Wikipedia you can look up the whole thread. And if I'm off, please correct me. But for example, the word star, I know I'm correct. I just don't want to make a mistake.
The word star, you know what a star is, like in the heavens. So a Hollywood star is another semantic meaning that was a semantic loan that brought in the word star. So if I say star, I may mean stargazing type star, and I may mean Jack Nicholson. And you need to understand the semantics of which I speak of. Type 1. So the Torah comes with, let's say, 5 different meanings of semantic meanings of ger, right? Let's just say 5. Stranger, convert, ger shar, ger toshav. Let's just say there's 5 semantic meanings for ger. Type 1. And let's say that it was a semantic loan when Abraham said, I'm a ger, when God said, y'all are ger. 5 times in the Torah, 5 different characters said ger, and God said, I agree with all of you. Right? So the semantic loan came in, and then we developed the semantic meaning. Type 1. And then we went to exile for a couple thousand years, and ger became synonymous with convert. Type 1. But that doesn't change the meaning of the Bible or the Talmud. So just because the semantic meaning became narrowed down to ger convert, that doesn't mean ger doesn't mean other things. So it appears as a semantic loan. When we resurrect a meaning from the writings of the rabbis, it looks like a semantic loan, but it's not. It's a revisitation to the semantics of the biblical word ger. That's called philology, getting into the meaning of words. Now, what our friends at Ask Noah have done is they have taken the word Noahide, which was developed in around 1960 something or other, as a vulgar expression of either B'nai Noach or Ben Noach or 7 Laws of Noah. And as Logos would explain, it was everything concerning Noahides as we know it. 7 Laws, Noah people, Noahism. We'll just call it one big old hamburger called Noahide. Type 1. So the Vendel Jones Noahide became a movement, which Chaim Chlorfine wrote a book, The Path of the Righteous Noahide. Just kidding. Path of the Righteous Gentile. And then it became Noahides, right? For the last 30 years, it's been Noahides. And nobody really had a problem with Noahides. I don't have a problem with Noahides. It's a Logos term for a bunch of Noah stuff. Okay, I don't disagree. But let's not pretend that it's Hebrew, and let's admit that it's English, and let's admit that it really doesn't mean anything. It has a semantic meaning. Okay, I agree with that. It has a place in Webster's dictionary, but don't claim the etymology is B'nai Noach under a certain category, because like all linguistics, it's a multi-source neologism. It cannot be simply defined through etymology. So then how does an organization in 2006 or 4, whatever it was, come along and say, we know the true meaning of Noahide? Jacques, do you realize how stupid that is? That's like saying the operating system for computers, DOS. Guys remember DOS? DOS, DOS. So I happen to be a bit of a tech genius, and I know the true meaning of the word DOS. And I'm gonna invent a new religion for computer workers where we worship the God of DOS, the DOS God, because I know what that means. That's what that's like by saying that Noahide, you know the meaning of Noahide. This is why Logos is a joke. In linguistics, etymology is a joke when you try to find the meaning. That's why when we look up words, we don't look up the meaning. We get the superconscious position of all the things that went into the meaning. So if there was an organization promoting true Noahide, guess what you call that biblically, Jacques? Ger Toshav. Thank you. Ger Toshav is all things Noahide. Why? Oh, only because there's about 5,000 different meanings and connotations of Ger Toshav. With Kabbalah, without Kabbalah, Shitu, 7 laws, Avodah Zorah, Nevela, Mitzvah, Chiyus, you name it. There's about 20,000 kinds of Ger Toshav. That's why it's so complicated. And you know what? I agree with you if we call it Noahide. I would agree with you. Only Noahide is an English vulgar term, which is why Chaim calls it the Noahide Ger. And I don't disagree. But Jacques will tell you the problem with Noahide is it's good for conversation, but you're not going to find Noahide in the Psukim, are you, Jacques? So ultimately, we have to translate Noahide and what it really means. And so the guys that were the Noahides back in the day, when they were learning the Torah and they called themselves Noahides, they were really calling themselves Ger Toshav. And they knew that they were Ger in the Chumash, but no one ever thought to call themselves Ger. They called it Noahide. But once they called themselves Noahide, they were divorced from the Chumash. And then they became a schism that there's no Ger Toshav till Jubilee. So they lost the Chumash, and they got stuck with Noahide, and they were always one step away from Ger. Because everything Noahide or Ger Toshav always comes from Ger in the Torah. So then an Ask Noah organization that comes along and says Noahide means Chasidei Umot HaOlam, whoa. Hold on, partner. Now, we did fetch it out. And you could say that Noahide could be Chasidei Umot HaOlam. Not because objectively, but you can subjectively say it just like subjectively you said Noahide, correct? Noahide, you could say, is the word for Ger Toshav. Okay. Because that's how you used it. So if you want to use Noahide for Chasidei Umot HaOlam, that's fine. But to claim that there's some kind of secret etymological code, no. So then what's wrong with let's let Shulman lie a little bit, stretch the imagination, and let's pretend that Noahide can mean Chasidei Umot HaOlam, yeah? The only problem with that is they learned the Chasidei Umot HaOlam wrong. They think it's divorced from Ger Toshav. And Chasidei Umot HaOlam isn't in the Torah. So guess what, Jacques? We have the same problem all over again. Noahide and Chasidei Umot HaOlam don't get you in the Torah, does it? So you have a guy claiming that we did an illegal semantic loan, and he himself did an illegal semantic loan. How are you finding this, Justin? Interesting? Jacques? Hello. Justin B. All right. That might be all I got for now. I really wanted to give over this linguistic thing, and I think I did. The bottom line is that Ger Toshav is not a person. He's a legal fiction. He's a title that you give a person by having certain criteria. And the function of Ger Toshav usually is a financial or monetary situation. That you don't rip off, you don't taunt the Ger with money, you don't rob him, you don't make him work for free on Shabbos or charge him more on Shabbos and financial things. It's a relationship. Now, a ger can be a Ger Toshav, but a Ger Toshav is not a ger. What you call a non-Jew who takes the Kabbalah, he is called Ger Toshav. He has the right to be called Ger Toshav. So then there's something called the rights of Ger Toshav and the right to be called Ger Toshav. What do you call that, Jacques? Svei Dinim. First two opinions of Avodah Zorah 64b. The right to be called Ger Toshav and the rights of Ger Toshav. And then the third opinion by the Nevela, the rights to Ger Toshav. He gets the Nevela for free, not for charge. Monetary. And because it's a monetary thing, without a proper Kabbalah, we can't be sure, so not until Jubilee. And that is the Lecharchila Ger Toshav Ad Zman Yovonoyik. As long as it's not monetary, but only rabbinic, scriptural, but affects on a rabbinic level and not on a financial level, that Ger Toshav we have today, he's allowed to take Kabbalah, and he's allowed to reject Shituf. What is a Ger Toshav today? Someone who rejects Shituf. That means he's very serious about not doing Avodah Zorah. That means his Shabbos day is he's really not interested in Avodah Zorah. What is Avodah Zorah? Doing work for a Jew on Shabbos. Because on Shabbos, it's the day that Israel received the Shabbat at Sinai. And he's connecting his 7 laws to Sinai. So the Kabbalah oath is to reject Shituf, which is applicable today. The only nafkamina is he doesn't have the command of Shabbos as Shabbos itself. That's a Ger Toshav's Man Yovanayik. What he does have, though, is Shabbos Avodah Zarah, not to do work or labor for a Jew. He should do malacha in the open, as he understands today is the Shabbos given to Israel at Sinai. When you say take Kabbalah, define take Kabbalah. You raise your right hand and you say, I, Justin Becker, understand what it is to reject Shituf, and I reject Shituf, and I keep the 7 laws. If you do that between you and God, you're Yotzi. It is preferable, Justin, if you do it before 3 kosher Jews. It is not the same based in as needed for Zman Yovel Noyig. If you take Kabbalah under the right circumstances and reasons, you're considered a Ger Toshav, and from the Chasidei Umot HaOlam, which means you are not a regular goy. You are not from the Umot HaOlam. Noahide believes in Shituf. So our little semantic loan didn't do anything. By not taking the Shituf Kabbalah, you are still in Shituf. A Christian is a Shituf Noahide. The only difference between the Shituf Noahide Christian and the Shituf Noahide is one believes Yeshu is the Messiah, and the other one is being led by many to believe that dead Jews are Messiahs. Not a big difference, is there? Not a big difference. But once you reject Shituf, then you're out of the church completely. You're out of the nations completely. Your 7 laws are connected to Sinai. You learn the Torah with a scholar on the 7 laws according to the Brisker Rav, which means you have a mitzvah of Talmud Torah and a 7, which bleeds to any aspect of the Torah according to the Miri. You don't do work on Shabbos for a Jew, which means you have self-commanded yourself to preventing yourself from doing prohibited labor for a Jew, which means the Ger Toshav Shabbos increases 9a, which brings you Shulchan Aruch 304, which allows you to call yourself Ger Toshav. You are not getting the rights of a Ger Toshav, but the rights of Ger Toshav go to you that you can eat in a Vela for free and not being sold to like a Nachri. Type 1. All right, there's Shituf. We did linguistics. These are my notes. And this is Dinim. And we got left a couple things. So by saying that there's no name Ger Toshav and that you're all a bunch of Shituf Noahides, the biggest consequence is Torah and Shabbos. And they're going to quote to you the Radvaz in Hilchos Malachim 10:10. And then those that say that a Noahide cannot, Noahide meaning Ben Noach here, like Rambam. Remember how I use Noahide as just a translation of Ben Noach, according to the Rambam, Hilchos Malachim 10:10, a non-full status Ger Toshav. You understand my use of Noahide? Noahide Ger. That's a klal. Don't forget that. So he can do all the mitzvahs of the Torah. We know that. So those that say he can't, they're just plain ignorant. Namaratzim. Talmud Torah, the Rebbe says that Beferish and a Sikha. So good luck on that one. And the Miri supports that. The Rebbe brings the Miri on that. Then you have the only real contentious ground is Shabbos. So the Rav Yosef Ber Soloveitchik says, the Rav of YU, that maybe Shabbos is a derisa for a Ger Toshav who rejects Avodah Zarah, not the Jubilee Ger Toshav. But even if you don't want to say that, then you have the rejecting Shituf Akum level of Ger Toshav with a Kabbalah, and he doesn't do Avodah Zarah on Shabbos. That is the essence of the Rebbe's Sikh. The Rebbe goes through the entire Ger Toshav world to arrive to which kind of non-Jew today Ger Toshav can keep Shabbos B'diavad, where he has the name Ger Toshav. Thank you very much on that one. Now, to say that he doesn't have Shabbos is Ask Noah, which we go full circle with our friends over there. And they're saying that a Noahide, as they call it, cannot make Kiddush because that's like making a new religion. Making a new religion is only when you keep Shabbos like a Jew. So if you have not made Shabbos like a Jew, you did not make a new religion. Why? Because you're allowed to keep any mitzvah according to the halacha. What if I do a mitzvah not according to the halacha? Then that's like one of my favorite sayings. It's like putting a peanut butter and jelly sandwich into a disk drive and expecting it to work. You don't get punished for that. It's called being stupid. So he says if you make Kiddush, it's like making a new religion. And you're not allowed to make any spiritual practices lest it be a new religion. Well, it's not a new religion, and making Kiddush is not a problem. Because if you're not doing it like a Jew, then what you're doing is you're blessing the seventh day, which is the Shabbos of Israel, and it's the day of God, yada yada. The bottom line is that spirituality is not forbidden for Ger. Then there are those that say, is there even such a thing as Ger spirituality? The answer is yeah. Did you ever read Kabbalah? Like the mystical Kabbalah? You'll say, oh, but the Kabbalah is not halacha. No one said it is. But Ger spirituality is the Noga, and it's all through Chassidus, Kabbalah, and Nister and Makshava. Then you say, okay, but making Kiddush doesn't do anything according to spirituality. And you're right, it doesn't. Because that would imply, halakhically, that a Ger Toshav exists today outside of Yovel, and he's commanded in Shabbos, which he isn't. But on the Shabbos day, he is commanded to not serve idols. Is that what you mean? The day of not serving idolatry, which he gets reward for? So is he allowed to sanctify a day that he doesn't do idols? Yeah, 100%. Just don't call it Shabbos and don't call it like a Jew. And call it, this is how I don't serve idols. I don't do work for a Jew. So by having a little bit of shmekelka wisdom, you can know how to serve God, be spiritual, be in line with the Masorah, and not transgress commandments. And when it says a goy keep Shabbos is chayav misa, it's not a literal death. It's a rabbinic gezerah lest you steal the Shabbos from a Jew. And even still, it's talking about an akum. So an akum who says, I'm not going to do work for a Jew because I keep Shabbos, he's chayav misa, and the Jew has a mitzvah d'rabbanan to not allow him to work for him. You know why a ger doesn't do work for a Jew? I.e., do you know why a Jew doesn't need to tell a ger not to do work for him? Because the ger is already commanded to not do work for him. It's written in the Torah, rest your ger. And you'll say there's no jubilee. And I'll say, I know. He's not doing avodah zarah today. Thank you for listening. Be well.